Some solution, but it's not ethical.
I get what you're trying to say, but I don't know how to phrase it.
General law.
Characteristics of individuals. Move around. Characteristics of individuals.
Individual. Individual.
Values.
Values.
Customs and rules.
Custom.
Very simplistic.
Just custom.
It's going to write everything.
External.
Organization ini KPIs, so they can become counterproductive.
Aging population on this. Aging population. Climate change. I think I'm still involved. Yeah.
There's one more, group thing. Group thing. That means if or every
Not completely. What's the second question now? Do we have another one?
Communication barrier.
Yeah, cooperation. Unable to seek cooperation from you want to sign cooperation from companies, right?
Right, another 2 more minutes, then we shall recommence. And if you can put up your findings with the masking tape and just stick it up the wall, it would be great.
Okay, so this one.
That's good, that's a nice mind stick it up the wall. Okay, you got a few. Right. So you can put that, stick it up on the whiteboard. I think the top one. Creative problem solving. Creative problem solving, you should put it at the top first. Yeah. Put two at the side. Okay. Right. barriers. Barriers is something that you find that you cannot avoid. So what I'm going to do right now is this. I would expect one of each particular group, just one of you all to just do a short what you call presentation. And as you're giving through, I will also give you some of the additional take on what you put there, so we can synthesize your information together with mine. All right, and see, the expression, a great mind thinks alike. Right? Let's start with this group now. Yes, thank you.
So, sorry.
Barriers to problem solving for foreseeable are your lack of resources and lack of knowledge and skills and certain regulations that which you need to follow up. And unforeseeable factors are your economic cycle, when there's an economic downturn or political change, all these comes under economic cycle. And external factors are like things again like political instability or some terrorist attack or this kind of thing are your external factors. And again, can't foresee how people think are also, because when there's an organization change, people change, and the way people think are different from what others think also.
Right, thank you. Very good. Alright. Before I go to the next group, based on what you all said on the unforeseeable economic factors, cycle factors, etc. See, what you have is sometimes can be classified as what is called a situational barrier. So as I said, right, you're not wrong, but it's just that we just going to reclassify that. Sometimes we face what we call situational barrier. When you find that when you have a situation and you may say something like, we have a situation here. So we have a situational barrier. So something that just pops up and you notice it disrupts your natural order of things. And you have to find a way to overcome that. But the thing is this, right? Sometimes a barrier can be seen as a threat. It can also be seen as opportunity. That's why we need to identify that, right? In fact, that's what Sun Tzu in the Art of War says, right? Look at your threats as opportunities, right? You're learning the Sun Tzu Art of War as well. Right. How about this group? Someone else. Yeah, thank you.
Barriers, right? Like, example, the rules and laws, like as mentioned, like the matchbox example, right? You have a lot of restrictions. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. That is one of the barriers. And then lack of resources like time and your monetary constraints, and Murphy's law, like anything that can go wrong will go wrong, right? For instance, like natural disasters, we cannot predict. So we have foreseeable and unforeseeable, and social norms. I'm not too sure about that. Sorry. And group thinking, which is like sometimes something makes sense to be followers, like they don't dare to voice out their opinions, so they just tend to follow the lead, without their own opinions.
Alright, thank you so much. Right. Okay, that's good. I think this group, you all got a question for them, right? Yes.
What is group thinking?
That means like, for example, you have a group discussion, then after that, if the more outspoken one, they will actually suggest a solution. Then the rest of them, those introverts, some of them will actually just follow with the solution rather than thinking one on their own.
Okay, nice, thank you. Right, okay. How about, by the way, before I continue, right, this group, interestingly, you sort of consolidated your thought processes into, if I were to put this on the thought process, we can call this, right, like this group, you all talk about situational barrier. But what this group did is a classic example of what is called organizational barriers. So you see, you mentioned things like groupthink, you mentioned things like Murphy's law, lack of resources. So what you're looking at is a bit of an organizational barrier, where your organization in itself is a barrier to your thinking process. And there's one more barrier you also added on. You mentioned the word resources. It can also be a resource barrier. So sometimes your lack of resource can in itself be a barrier. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Right. How about this group? Anyone, present.
So these are the barriers that we thought of. So the first one, as mentioned by other groups, is like lack of resources. So be it lack of finance, resources, lack of time. Okay, so the second barrier we use the regulation. So is there too many procedures in order for these changes to be done on time?
it. So the third one would be qualitative factor. So let's say you want to implement a change, but this change is it met with resistance from employees? If yes, then it will be ineffective as it is time consuming. So the fourth factor will be economic factors as mentioned by other groups earlier on, is like unforeseeable. If there's any changes, we will need to come up with plans spontaneously. So the fifth one will be lack of confidence and knowledge and competence. I think this is more of like individual barriers, but it can be improved. The sixth barrier will be time constraint. So whether your changes, your measures, is it able to implement on time to meet the obstacles, or you need a longer time frame. Yeah, so this is it.
Thank you. I think this particular group, you don't have a question for that.
Yeah, so your limited resource is kind of the same with the time constraint and the economic
Or it
factors.
can be classified together.
Yeah, they can group together because I see they're like the same thing you're referring to.
Right, thank you so much. Okay, so there you are, right? There it is. So what are we doing here? We're coming out a formula to try to become a creative problem solver. So step one, you need to understand what is the nature of the problem. Secondly, you need to identify the barriers. And the third one is that there's a process. So if you want to know a process of creative problem solving, is something like this. The first stage is what is called information gathering. You need to gather all the relevant information to help you solve the problem. Secondly is the problem definition. Now I'm going to focus on problem definition shortly after this, right? And because information gathering you all should know is all the information with regards to the nature of with regards to why the problem exists. And then you need to define the problem. Now when you want to define the problem, all the problems you ever face in your life can be classified into two categories, which I'm going to share with you. Okay, the element of mystery there. Hold on to it. Third, once you define the problem, you need to look for possible solution. The solutions may be a possibility, but whether they're applicable is a different situation. Like if I ask you this question, how can we solve the problem of traffic congestion in the roads every day? Now, a possible solution is ban all cars. And if you think about it, that will effectively solve the problem. But you know it's going to create a bigger problem. True? So that's why you need to look at possible solutions. And from there on, we need to analyze the possible solution. Is it applicable? The solution may be effective, but may not be applicable. It may not fit in. And you need to select the best solution. And finally, you need to take into consideration what is your next course of action. So this is a kind of a structured step-by-step aspect as to how you can become a creative problem solver. Now to do this, I'm going to go through a little drill and practice with you. So based on what I just shared, the most important part of a problem solving is called the information gathering. And why is this important? Rather than I give you the answer, right, can you give me a response? Why do you think information gathering is important? Anyone from this group here?
So that you know what's the situation like, then you can take action according to it.
Very good. Okay, you know the situation, right? Thank you. What's another reason why you need to gather information?
To understand your customers.
To understand your customers better, is it? Yeah, very good, right? And what?
Budget planning.
Budget planning, very good, right? That's what accountants think. Budget planning, very good. Okay, budget planning. Thank you, right? Now, when you talk about this information gathering, there are several things you need to keep in mind. These are the things. Number one, the information you gather, are they facts? Like it may be factual. Like if you say, right, there's a traffic congestion in Singapore every day, you may ask me a direct question like, where is the facts? So I need to give you some statistical data as to the congestion, maybe pictures, evidence to show that it exists. Sometimes the problem is something you cannot see, but you know there's a problem. So this is based on assumption. And what is an assumption? Given the fact that a recent earthquake in some countries, I believe that there will be a major earthquake soon. Now, I'm basing it on previous fact, but it's just an assumption because there's no guarantee another earthquake will occur. It's like I'm telling you that you don't have to bring your umbrella tomorrow because the last 2 days it's not been raining, so it probably won't rain tomorrow as well. Right? That is an assumption based on what I've observed the last 2 days. But you know, assumptions can be wrong, right? And then from this context, you need to look at the concepts. What are the concepts in the data gathering process? And then you need to look at opinions. What are the opinions of people? If let's say you're in the product line, you want to see whether your product sells, you have to think about what would be the people's opinion as to whether they would want to buy your product or not. And then what are the procedures involved? in gathering this back and eventually the processes. So this is the information gathering aspect. And then once you do that, in order to answer this, in order to find out the answers for this, you can basically use a very simple time-tested way of doing it. The who, what, when, why, where, which, why. Ask question, what's happening, why is it happening in this manner, right? What went wrong? This is where you solve the problem. And then through that, you may also want to do things like interviews, statistics, questionnaires, observation, to gather as much data as possible. So based on this, I'm going to ask you to do a little practice right now. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to consolidate this particular aspect. I'm going to give you a case study, and I need you to keep what I just shared with you in mind, which you have a copy of it in front of you, and you are going to try to solve, or rather try to find the information as to why this problem exists. So this is the case study that I'm going to share with you right now. Spend a moment reading this. Okay, now what I want to do, ask you to do right now, I'm just going to give you 5 minutes, and I'm going to give you some flip chart. You have some sticky notes on your table, and I'm going to give you a few more. And what I need you to do is this, right? We are not trying to solve the problem here, but we are trying to sort of like generate possible potential data as to why this is happening. So your group right now is going to do a little discussion to find out the kind of data that requires. Now the data that you are going to find out is based on the who, what, when, why, how. Like for instance, you need to ask yourself a question like, what is the nature of the problem? Who can I ask? What am I looking for? Is there really a problem? Okay, so see what kind of responses you need and what kind of data do you think you require for 5 minutes as a group when you discuss. And I give you some little sticky notes for you to work on. What kind of responses? What kind of questions are you going to ask?
Who do you ask? Customer.
The customers.
Why do
The
you not?
past, maybe the frequent regular customer, why they stop coming to. But then you know, like after it's like after you stay in the hotel, you won't probably call.
That's a regular customer.
But the reason why they came is they came what?
Just 问他们 like what's the difference between back then and now.
Your basic response is the last question. What question would you ask? By the way, you have a piece of paper that I've given you earlier. You notice if you refer to it, right, you have this piece of paper at the bottom, gathering information. And you may find that there are several questions you may want to structure accordingly. Number one, you need to clarify the situation. You need to challenge assumptions about the problem. Determine the possible reasons and evidence. Explore different perspectives concerning a problem. And ask more about the original question. So these are some of the things you need to address.
your first year.
What you wish to experience. What are you
Do you have any like satisfactory experience? If you have to specify.
what can we
Really ask questions. As long as you can gather information, I guess.
Find the lecturer. How come you
No, but it's a high end. It's a high end result, so I think pricing is no, but for me, I'll be like it could be the staff,
Okay? Are we doing? Alright. Now, would you like to share with me as a group, as a wholesome group, some of the information that you need or is missing? Okay. Now, just like to reiterate that usually in a situation like that, it's all an interlinked process. So once you are in the process of information gathering, what's going to happen is that subconsciously you're also trying to come up with a definition of problem, which is the next stage. So let's work together, right? I need some response from you. Right? Let's go group by group. You give me a response, I'm going to write that down. Tell me one question that you need to know regarding this situation. Oh, a series of questions. Okay, basically one way is to ask lost customers as to why they are not using your facilities. Okay, not using facilities or leaving. Okay, or leaving. That's one reason. Okay. How about this group? Give me one.
find out if other hotels are also experiencing the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Find out. Other hotels problems regarding this. Okay. Maybe it's across everywhere. Okay. And what else? Exactly. Okay. Where are the customers going to? If not ours. Okay, if not ours, right? That's it. These are all very decent questions regarding the problem through. No? And if I give you a little bit more time, we come up with more and more possible questions, right? So once you get the data, you find that you are now in a better frame of mind to come up with what is called problem definition. Okay, so this is going to be the last part of this particular workshop on the concept of how to do a problem definition. Okay, and we're going to apply this in terms of peer coaching. I'm going to share with you some information, and then we're going to do a little peer coaching whereby you are going to find out the answers to what a problem definition is for one another. Now, the thing is this, defining a problem requires you to keep in mind a few things. First, where the problem originated. Second, the present state and the desired state. What is your current situation? What do you desire? Given the case study that I showed you earlier, you may find your desired state would be to have full occupancy, correct? I mean, you got a hotel guest, this is a hotel management, this is the one objective you try to achieve. And next, stating and restating the problem. So you may ask, right, if you say like, why is it that we are not having full occupancy? Then you're becoming problem centric. When we say, right, what can we do to have full occupancy? Then you're becoming solution focused. Between the two, which one do you think is more creative? The second one. Yes? Yeah, because when you say what can we do to have full occupancy, you start to become solution focused. Then you can really start thinking out of the box. Maybe, right, for every particular guest who registered, another guest gets free. Now you're thinking. Right? For every guest that actually registered in the hotel, they're Hello Kitty toy. Now you're becoming creative still. So this is how you actually generate possible solutions. And then analyzing the problem. So this is where you need to ask yourself questions like, when you say determining where the problem originated, you need to clarify the situation. What are we looking at? What kind of assumptions do we have to challenge? Possible reasons and evidence as to why this current situation is existing. Ask more about the original question. These are some of the things you need to do. So this is where I'm going to share with you. All the problems you're ever going to face in your whole entire life can be categorized into two broad classes. So let me demonstrate by virtue of an example so perhaps you understand what I'm talking to you about. Any of you here in this room ever broken any part of your anatomy before? An arm, a leg, possibly not a neck. Yes, thank you so much, right? Let's say you went to the doctor, you broke your leg, the doctor put a cast. Now let's say you're playing football and you broke your leg. Can you tell yourself, never mind, I still got one more leg, I'll see the doctor next year? You can't, you're stupid. Because you know there's only one solution. You have to see the doctor, you have to get your broken leg reset, and you have to let nature take its course to sort of heal the leg. That's it. Now, that kind of problem you can handle. This is what is called an acute problem. An acute problem is a problem where you know the problem has to have a solution. There is no other possibility. You have a broken leg, you have to come up with a solution to overcome it. It's not going to go away by itself. You need to address it. But let's say a person went for a routine medical checkup and suddenly the doctor gave the bad news that the person is suffering from diabetes. And you know from your limited knowledge of medication, just like mine, there's no cure for diabetes. So there's no solution for the problem, but it's a problem. And the only thing you can do is not a life-threatening illness, but it can become life-threatening if you do not take steps to manage the problem. So when a person is diagnosed for diabetes, what kind of solution options does the person have? They have several options. One, they need to take medication to maintain their blood sugar level. Two, they may have to change their lifestyle to eat less, exercise more, consume less sugar, have a healthier lifestyle. All these contribute for the diabetes to be, the blood sugar to be maintained. But the condition will never go away. So you're facing not an acute problem, but you're facing what is called a chronic problem. So just to recap again, right? The two things I said, one kind of problem is the acute problem. And the other one is the chronic problem. Now, let me do a further classification between an acute problem and a chronic problem. See, an acute problem is sometimes called a fix-it problem. Usually acute. So in this kind of problem, you see your status quo position, the position you're in right now is no good. There's only one solution. You got to move. And you got to move to an ideal situation. So this is where you are. This is where you want to be. From here to here, you have a gap. This is called the execution gap. You are here, you want to be here. How do you get from here to here? You got a gap, then you need to take step to close. That's it. The other kind of problem is called the chronic problem. But before I show you that, right, let me just demonstrate to you pictorially what do you mean by acute problem. Look at this picture here. There's a good looking woman. And she's stranded. What do you think is going through her mind?
Call someone.
Call for help someone. And she only got one objective. She wants her car to be repaired. Maybe the way she looks at the car, she hopes that mentally she can repair it. But you know, whatever's going through her mind, her objective is that she wants the car repaired so she can continue with her journey. True? She's actually in an acute situation and she has to fix the problem. And the acute problem is called a fix-it problem. You need to fix the problem. The other kind of problem is what is called a do-it problem. It's called a do-it problem. Normally, do-it problem is usually chronic in nature, like I said, like being diagnosed for diabetes. In a chronic problem, you may find your focus is not finding a perfect solution, but rather to maintain the problem such that it doesn't excavate to another situation. Or you want to address it as amicably as possible. So look at this picture. Tell me something. Do you think this woman is even bothered about her car?
No.
No. Where is her focus? A baby, right? She's in a very open space. She's very vulnerable. She's got a very young toddler in her arm. And every maternal instinct in her will tell her to get to safety. Her last concern is a car. True? Once the baby is in a safety zone, she may think about how to retrieve the car. So the focus is more on getting the baby to safety. So what she's facing is what is called a do-it problem. She needs to do something about the current situation, and to do something about it, the focus is not on the car being breaking down, but how to get her baby to safety. See where the focus is? Now you know why I'm sharing this with you? Because if you want to become a creative problem solver, what you got to do is to focus on the solution. What is it that you want? So if you focus on the problem, like the discussion you just had regarding the hotel, you may think about, maybe perhaps you may feel that people are not coming to a hotel perhaps because the facilities are not good. You may want to upgrade facilities, or the fact that maybe the food is not good, maybe you want to upgrade the food, but this may not be the problem. It could be, possibly, there's a new competitor who just opened a new hotel and they're giving a discount of almost 90%. And if you're a consumer, where would you go? Right? So the question, one of the responses the other group gave, what is this something the other hotels are facing as well? So that's one of the questions you ask yourself. So you say how